We are live. I'm getting better at this. Rachel, see, this is the beauty of being the fourth. I am getting a better idea of what I'm doing. So welcome, everyone. I am so delighted you're here tonight. And tonight I am here with my dear friend, Rachel Hauck. We served on the board for ACFW together for years. We were roommates at every kind of winter board meeting. And so Linda and Stacy, it's so fun to have you join us. But Rachel, I thought you could take a minute and introduce yourself to everyone, because they may not be familiar with your wonderful contemporary romance and split time romance and all your royal romance. So you just write everything.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Cara. And we are good friends, longtime friends. So it's always fun to do these things with a friend. And hi, everybody who's coming in. I can't see you because I don't have Cara's Facebook page up, but I should. The older I get, the less techie I want to be. I just want to say it that way. I can be techie. I just don't want to be.
Well, and they keep changing it. Every time you think you know what exactly you've got it dialed in, then they go and change it.
Yes. Preach, sister, preach. So, and we were also joking, you guys, about how Cara was saying she was doing these things. And I said, so I'm so glad you're doing them. This is something I've wanted to do. I just haven't gotten around to it. And she was saying, well, I think most people will know you. And I said, it always surprises me. I'll go by another author's page. My name is mentioned, or maybe they've posted something for me. And the people go, oh, I don't know her. I haven't read her. And I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah,
of course, people haven't heard of me, obviously. Yeah. So hi, everybody.
Like The Wedding Dress is your New York Times bestseller, right? And it's your USA Today bestseller. And
yeah, that one made the rounds. But hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Hauck, and I am a New York Times bestselling author. I've been full-time for 16 years, almost 17, and I've been published as long. And I write split time. I started out writing chick lit, and I moved to romance, and then I discovered split time, which is that dual timeline story that's becoming very popular right now. The Wedding Dress was the first one of those. And I learned that from the author Susan Meisner, who you guys all probably know or love. And if you don't, you need to go check her out. And then I did a royal wedding series, and we have this. We have the new covers.
Yeah.
Cara's holding up the second in the series. I'm holding up the first in the series. This is Once Upon a Prince with its new covers.
I adore these. These are my favorite. They are my absolute go back to over and over and over again.
Oh, that's sweet. And this one was made into the Hallmark movie. And then I went back to split time, wrote the Wedding Chapel and the Wedding Shop. And then I did kind of a multicast with the Fifth Avenue Story Society.
Yeah. So. And I love how you incorporated some of the characters from this into To Love a Prince.
Yeah. So then there's a character in there called Prince Augustus, and he gets left at the altar. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And so the Coral was the character in the story who was dealing with the aftermath of all of that. She's the one who left him at the altar. And so I thought, oh, poor Gus needs a story. And so I just decided to do a little indie publishing, have some fun with it. And so To Love a Prince is already out, and To Save a King is next. And I'm working on that.
I can't wait.
As we speak.
Yeah.
I cannot while we're talking.
One of the things I love about your royal series in particular, and I grabbed this one in part, okay, the dresses are to die for, and the same on the To Save a Prince. That blue dress, I'm like, that must weigh a ton. Yeah. It must weigh a ton. I remember watching when Cinderella, the live action Cinderella came out, and I don't remember who played Cinderella, but the blue dress, and they said it was literally like 20 pounds. And she's got to waltz in a dress like that. And I'm like, it's gorgeous, but man, that's a workout.
That is a workout. It's, I know her name, Lily James. She played on Downton Abbey. She was Rose on Downton Abbey. That dress is to die for. And I feel like every time I write a royal romance, I'm trying to capture that moment. Now, I captured that moment. I tried before in the royal wedding series before that movie came out, but that movie kind of embodied yes, I'm always trying for that royal ball scene. Like, what are some things in a royal romance that you just have to have? Obviously you have to have the royal, obviously you have to have some sort of ball or dance or something where it's very romantic. And then I always include, as you know, Cara, a supernatural element. And so I always have, because I always think if we could see God breaking in right now into our world, what would it look like? And so I try to embody that somehow in the story as kind of something to ignite our spiritual imagination.
And I love that. I think that's one of the things I love the most about the royal books that you write. So for those of you who are watching, be sure and drop a comment if you've read a Rachel Hauck book, because they are fantastic, and let people know which one you recommend. But if you haven't, hopefully as we wrap up, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I've got to run over to Amazon right now and buy one. But what I love, like, this is Regina's story,
Right.
right? Yep, Regina. It's funny because I love the cover, but I love her story because she's a car restorer. I remember brainstorming parts of the journey at ACFW. We're all camped out in Colleen Coble's room and we're
That's
taking
right.
turns brainstorming different books.
Yeah.
And you would talk about how you wanted heaven to invade earth and you wanted to grab that kind of spiritual moment. And you do that so beautifully in the Royal series. And I wonder if it's because really what you're doing is you're retelling part of the fairy tale of how Jesus loves us and how, we're the chosen bride, and kind of recapturing that. And every girl, I think that's why we love the idea of fairy tales and wanting to be the princess, because it's really embedded into the DNA of our spirits. So is that something that you're striving for, or is that something that just kind of has grown organically?
Yeah, initially was exactly what I was thinking. Now, initially with the first, why I started the idea anyway, is I got up and I watched William marry Kate and I said, uh-oh, the royals are back. Ever since when Diana died, then kind of everybody left the princes alone and we didn't have a lot of information about them. But when I saw Kate get out of that car and walk into Westminster Abbey, I'm like, oh, she's beautiful. She's confident. And yeah, we're back. We're back. I got to jump on this. And so I didn't originally have a supernatural character in that book, but I was looking for it. So when I start out, I don't actually have something in mind. I try to let it come to me organically or through prayer. And then I created the character Aurora, which kind of became a Cinderella
Yes.
fairy godmother character. And then,
Although Aurora is from Sleeping Beauty.
yes, she was a character in Sleeping Beauty. She was. But actually,
Yeah.
for me, she was the name of a street I was driving under when I got the idea.
Oh, that's so perfect. Because I mean, she was the princess in Sleeping Beauty.
Yes, she
And
was.
so
Yes, she
when I
was.
read it, I immediately thought of that, and like one of those fairy godmothers that was flitting around and changing the dress from pink to blue to pink to blue. And
Yeah, and I do
so
feel
that's
like
fun.
they were a little bit odd. And so Aurora is definitely odd in Once Upon a Prince.
Yeah.
And for those of you who've seen the movie, Aurora is not in the movie, as you well know. But yeah, I think when I got to Regina, she really had that kind of angle of once we find out who we are in God, in
Yeah.
Christ, why do we want to go back to who we were? And that was her whole journey. That was my plumb line for her journey. Once she finds out she's this long lost princess and they need her to restore the country to its sovereign standing, why would you want to go back and restore cars? I mean, that's a great job if that's what you're
Yeah.
called to do, but she wasn't. She was called to step into her inheritance as this princess and this grand duchess. And so I feel like even for all of us, no matter what our career is or our social status or our financial status, we are members of the body of Christ. We are daughters of a king. We're actually betrothed to a king. So
Yeah.
princess in waiting
Yeah.
right here.
I love that. And I think there's something that it actually carries through a lot of your books, is that stepping into identity
Yeah, it
and that
does.
stepping into the fullness of who we're created and called to be. And I think that resonates again because it's that deep hunger that all of us carry inside, and we can't always articulate it really well, but I think it just, when we see it in a character, we just go, yes, that's what I want. And then it's always so well defined for each of your characters. The hero has how he has to step into his journey, and then the heroine has to step into hers. And even with the novella where you had the royal wedding, it was still, she had to step out of her identity as a US citizen to be able to step into her full identity
Yeah.
of what she was being called into. And I remember just sitting and thinking about that and going, there is a real richness to that. It's a real parable where there's life and truth that we can all marinate in after. So it's much more than just, oh, it's a fluffy, pretty dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's real heart to it.
I always strive for that. Thank you, Cara. That really blesses me. That was Susanna, who was in Once Upon a Prince. That was her journey. Like she had to totally deny her citizenship in America to go be this future queen and this princess marry this king. And, I think we were all kind of like, oh, forget about it, sister, go for it. But you're giving up everything, your home, your family, you're going to go live 4,000 miles away. Now you have to give up your citizenship and take on a citizenship that you're not familiar with, that you don't understand all the rights to. And in a way, isn't that what happens to us when we actually come to Christ? And he's saying, give up that citizenship, your human nature, give up the citizenship of the earth and come and live in my kingdom and partake of the things that are in my kingdom. And we're like, but this is so familiar. Even if it's crappy, there's something, or even hard, not maybe crappy, but hard, or we stumble in our weaknesses, and God's saying, hey, I got something better over here. I love that invitation to John in Revelation 4. He says, come up here. Like, what are you doing down there, John? Come up here. And then John accepts the invitation, and he sees the 4 and 20 elders. He hears the living creatures crying out, holy, 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 night and day. They don't shut up. And so I feel like that was one of the things for Regina's story that really impacted me was, what kingdom am I really living in?
Yeah.
And I have an invitation to live in a grander kingdom, even though I'm, as Paul says, stuck on earth.
Yeah. And that's the power of story.
Yes.
We can read Revelations, we can read, the different books of the Bible and see that there's meat there and be like, oh, okay, but how does that apply today? How does that apply to my life and my situation? And so when you've got the powerful characters combined with the powerful truth, that's when I think those light bulbs start happening and we start going, okay. And I think that's why and this is the only one I'd grab from the series, but we keep coming back to them. And literally I have the audiobooks of these, and I have the print copies, and I've got the ebooks because I want them available in any format, because I just know when I read them, I'm going to come back to truth. And it's no matter how long we've known Christ, no matter how long we've walked with him, there are those moments and those events that shake us again. And it's like, okay, I just need to be reminded that I need to step into my identity. I need to be reminded I am a princess and I'm not
That's right.
the chambermaid. And so
that's so right.
And yet that's all that the world is about, is bringing us down. And so having those stories that help raise our vision and go, oh, okay. And even though I know what's going to happen, even though I've read them, there's still that tingly feeling I get when that heaven invades earth happens. And I'm like, that's what God wants to do all the time. It's not supposed to be a fairy tale. It's supposed to be real life today, every moment.
Yeah. And I think we look for them, Cara's so right about story, and story is a way to paint a picture. And I once taught a class on, how to show Jesus in fiction without ever actually maybe, character doesn't say a prayer. And some books, like I'm working on a book right now, and I'm just putting it out there. It's a lot more bold, and here's what you need to do, than I've done in a long while. And because I feel like it's just the genesis of the story, it works.
Yeah.
And so always when you do, for me anyway, doing supernatural helps me to show who he might be. But, supernatural things are, you woke up today and you had a good day, or that you weren't having a good day, and you go in the bathroom and you're like, okay, Lord, I need to have a good day, or you go in the bathroom and you pray over a coworker situation, or you pray over something with your spouse or your children. That's inviting the supernatural to invade. We may not actually ever see it. Every once in a while, and though in worship, I will say this, I've had moments where I have felt angelic presence. I didn't see them, but I felt them. And I've actually had moments where I felt members of heaven came and joined me in my little Florida room at my piano and joined me in worshiping the Lord. Like, wait, you're in his presence, but we came down to worship with you. Every time that happens, I'm just undone. And it does expand my understanding of there's so much beyond the veil. Live like you know it, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that the people who are watching, and there's been several comments about, wow, I like the way you think. Have you written other types of Bible studies? Or loving this, amen. And what you don't know, those of you who are watching, is that Rachel is also the worship leader for the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference. And I'll never forget walking into my first one in 2005. I've been writing for 3 months, 4 months. I met Colleen in April, and I was at ACFW in September, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. This is going to be some stodgy old conference, and I'm not going to fit in, because I was like 31 or something at the time. I'm like,
All
this
us
is
old
just not,
folk were going to be there.
yeah, I didn't know. I mean, my first
Right.
conference was ACFW, and then the very first day, the very first thing is worship, and I just remember going, I do belong here, because this
Yeah.
is what my heart is. And there's something that even God's been reminding me, because COVID's been very stressful, teaching at a
Yeah.
world-class university, and having to constantly be flexible and trying to, I don't do chaos well, and this last year has been chaos. And there was a day like 3 weeks ago where I'm in my office at Purdue, and I was like, I can't handle this, I can't do this. And God was like, why aren't you listening to worship? And I just turned on Spotify, and it's like the atmosphere immediately changed. And I'm like,
So
it's,
true.
I know that. I know that. And yet I
I
had
know, we all
months to
forget.
walk away from it. And so I'm finding that the worship is back on in my office a lot. And it's changed kind of that feeling, because it does change the atmosphere, because it is a way that we encounter God, and we forget that. So, oh, okay. Christina's saying that she really enjoys the discussion questions in your book, because they help
Oh,
kind of
thank you.
dig out the process. I don't know about you, writing discussion questions is my least favorite part of writing a book.
Bingo. Here's why sometimes, yes, it's hard because you don't know exactly always what to ask. But
Yeah.
this is what kills me is I will go to a book club, and I love all y'all out there. I'm not, this is no judgment, but I'll go to a book club, or someone will ask me, I'll do one online, and they'll say, okay, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, well, there's discussion questions that I've already written if you would like to engage those. So
Yeah,
thank you for that, because I think sometimes people don't even bother with the discussion questions
yeah,
because, and I don't mind that, because the discussion questions to me are kind of boxy. That's me presenting my thoughts to you.
yeah.
But if you guys go, well, I want to discuss this particular character or this particular journey, that's fantastic. Or a lot of times what you get asked is, what was your inspiration? Why did you write it that way? How long did it take you? What's it, those kinds of questions, which I know you enjoy, and I enjoy too,
Yeah.
talking about the process. I love to go on and on about the process. That book was so hard to write.
And I usually get to the point where, when the book comes out, like Lethal Intent, I mean, I was editing this during COVID when I was making the transition to online teaching on the flip of a dime. I was like,
Right.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm like, I don't want to go back and relive that process, because it was hard. Or,
Yeah.
Delayed Justice was walking through so much grief from a situation we were going through, relationally, my husband and I, and it was all fine, but it was hard. And I don't know about you, but it's like God uses the book I'm writing to really force me to walk through a spiritual issue that I would love to run the other direction from. And it's crazy how many times he's like, yeah, no, that thing that you really are trying to push away and ignore, that's exactly the thing your character's dealing with. And I'm like, don't,
I know. I'll tell you what I feel like for me, from the first book to this one, what I'm writing now, whether it's always, it has been, I think, one long journey in circumcising my heart. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One long journey of being like, all of your significance is in me. It's not in being an author. It's not in, I didn't win any awards for like years. And I finally won in 2009. My first book was published in 2004. Not that I entered a lot of contests, but everything I put my books up for, nothing, or I didn't even get selected for a book club, ACFW book club, when we had that online back in the day. Just like it was 2009, and then I didn't win. I didn't, get any of the big ones. And then that year I was nominated for a Rita, which totally surprised me. So there was a couple of little things that happened, and then boom. I mean, seriously, I'm a mid-list Christian author, and The Wedding Dress hits the New York Times, and we stays there for 9 weeks. And
it was crazy and so cool.
It was
to watch.
crazy.
It was one of those lightning strikes kind of moments.
It
And what
was
makes those cool is there was nothing you did. It was all God, because there's
100%.
absolutely nothing you could have done.
It was a
And all
4-year-old
the
book.
authors in the room are like, my lightning moment, Lord. But that's what makes it lightning. It
Yep.
just, for whatever reason, and I think it's because of the story behind this book.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm like. Blah, 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 blah. It was 4 years old. It had been on sale in December of 15 and had done really well. And like 100 books were on sale, and it outsold all of them. I mean, we're talking Colleen Coble, Terry Blackstock. I mean, what? But every time that book went on sale, it did well. It was Amazon. I was going through old Gmails and I was cleaning them out, and I found Colleen and I were like a daily deal when Amazon had a daily deal on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, which are the two biggest days of the year. So the two Christian authors had the two biggest days of the year for the daily deal. And so we both did well. So when it came around, like they said, we're putting it on sale for the Valentine's season in 2016, I was like, I literally rolled my eyes. Okay, do you know I have other books? Like The Wedding Chapel had just come out in November. Like, okay. And then all of a sudden Amazon put it on the front page.
Yeah.
That was the second book in. People saw it and they started downloading it like crazy. And you guys know I had written on a impossible list that I wanted to hit the New York Times. And I have 4 things. I have 2 of the 4. I'm waiting on the other 2 impossibles. And seriously, I'm a midlist Christian author. I don't have any big awards at this point. I think I finally won a Christie. I mean, really, I'm just mid-list. I'm selling okay, but not great. And that book just exploded. I mean, it would be impossible other than God to have hit the New York Times. It hit the USA Today. It hit the USA Today the summer before, and it hit the Wall Street Journal. But here's me. I'm the pragmatist. The whole time I'm thinking, okay, next year's not going to look like this year. So God, prepare my heart, which that's the journey that I've been on. God going, are you going to look to me and depend on me? Or are you going to get all of your identity wrapped up in your ups and downs in this crazy publishing business? And I'm like, I can't survive if I do that. So I have to get my identity in you. I have to be, hey, and I said, whoever you're blessing that next year, let me get in on their team. And of course it was Lisa Wingate with Before We Were Yours. So, I mean, she blew
another
me and
lightning
everybody else out of the water. Yeah, she like 5 lightning strikes, maybe 10.
Well, because I think that book still might be on the New York Times list.
I know. It's fabulous. It's still so well, well.
Yeah, in the Book of Lost Friends, or
yes,
there's 2 books that came out with basically the same title, but that one was amazing.
I haven't read it yet. I need to read it.
The audiobook was fantastic. They had fantastic narrators for the different characters. And
nice.
If you like audiobooks, that one is a fabulous one to listen to, because
I would love that.
Job with the characters.
Speaking of audiobooks, the audiobook for this is really good too, by the way.
Oh, cool. I have not listened to that one yet.
The narrator's Louise Lee. She's out of Liverpool. And she does the best accent. Of course, it's a British-like character. Now, my next book, I have half American and half, Southern American, and half my new kingdom, Locked in Land. So we'll see how she does. I told her she could have more time. She didn't have to she turned this around for me so fast. My own head was spinning. But she has the best, she's been, to me, one of my best readers. I really liked her a lot. So.
That's awesome. I'll have to go look for it now, because
everybody listen for a sample of her. Huh? I'm sorry.
I love really well done audiobooks. There's something about them that 5 years ago I would have been like, oh no, audiobooks, whatever. And now I'm like, okay, what do I listen to next? It's like just because
I almost quit on an amazing story because the audio reader for me was horrible. But I stayed with the book. I mean, if I told you guys, you'd all know it. It's a very famous general market book. But I was like, but I'm kind of curious to see what happens. But how she voiced the heroine, who spanned time, was just not palatable to me. But I really loved the book. So I agree. My problem is I put on an audiobook and I'm asleep 2 seconds later.
Oh, yeah. No, I do it in the car or when I'm on the treadmill or walking the dog or something like
Yeah.
that. And Karen asked, what was the name of the book? I was talking about Lisa Wingate's The Book of Lost Friends. So
Yes.
it's an incredible, the split time, the historical piece is just phenomenal. So, and Denise, for me, getting into audiobooks really was how do I redeem all the time I'm spending in the car? How do I get some value out of it? And so my husband listens to podcasts all the time, and I don't like podcasts. I like the story. And for me, I don't know how you are, Rachel, but I read so fast that audiobooks actually help me slow down and hear the craft, what's working, what's not, word
That's
choice,
good.
all of that kind of stuff, which when I'm reading, I can read a book like this in 2 days. And so I might miss some of those subtle layers that when I then listen to it in an audiobook, I'll be like, oh, I see. Oh, I
I
see.
read very slowly,
Yeah.
mostly because if I spend all day with my own writing, I want to watch a game show. I'm really into the game show America Says right now. It's kind of like a Family Feud, but it's a fill in the blank kind of thing. I'm yelling at the TV, popcorn, popcorn, So it's like they ask a question and they give you 7 answers with only the first letter, and they work in teams like Family Feud. Anyway, so I'm down yelling at the TV about that. But I read very slow. Last year I had 23 endorsement requests. 23. That's 2 a
Oh,
month, you guys. And so after a while you get kind of, I want to support all these authors, but after a while it gets frustrating because you're like, I don't have any time to read books I want to read.
yeah.
So audio, and then I don't drive anywhere. And so I do enjoy podcasts. But you know what? My podcasts aren't working at my gym right now. So I probably should do an audio book.
Yeah.
And then when I run, I listen to music. So
Yeah, running requires music. The written word just doesn't work as well.
yeah.
And Denise and Stacy agree with you that America Says, which I've never heard of, is a great show.
Isn't
So
it fun? You guys, we're all screaming at the TV.
yeah.
That's My Little Pony.
And Joy's only ever listened to my books. Well, thanks. You really should try Rachel's.
That's
Her
good.
books, especially
This one.
Yeah. The royal ones are fantastic. And I'm going to have to listen to Love a Prince. Okay. So we've talked books. Now we've got like 4 minutes. Well, we're actually almost at time, but who cares? We're going to go a couple minutes longer.
We're going to go.
We have to talk college football.
Drum roll.
I am wearing this on purpose.
Wait, I don't. Oh, okay.
Do you have like pom-poms? Oh, there you go. You've got your little Buckeye guy.
My little Buckeye guy. And I have pom-poms back here somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
there they are. They're right in there.
I always have to tell my students at Purdue that if they see me in red, it is Nebraska red, it is not Ohio, and it is not Indiana red. It is Nebraska
there you go.
Red.
It's Nebraska red, right? That's still the Big Ten. I mean, they can still shoot paper wads at you through the straw if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's right. They can. So Denise is like, go Gators. I'll try and like you.
Oh, goodness.
We lost too many Orange Bowls to those.
I actually live 3 hours from Gainesville. I was Florida bound or Florida State bound because I lived in Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
And I got into both, but I couldn't get into, I didn't get into the journalism school at Florida. So I was going to have to go down and just, take classes until I could get in. And then I went up to Ohio State and I'm like, well, I want to go here. And my father went there and my uncles. So,
okay.
And it was, Columbus in the summer. I mean, it's to die for.
You
now talk to me in the winter.
Yeah. The snowstorm, we've got like 10 inches of snow that fell yesterday, and Ohio was getting the same thing. So this little Florida girl was not prepared. Were you? Were you one walking around in flip-flops in the snow?
No, because I had grown up with snow. We didn't move to Florida till I was almost 14. So I was familiar with it, but I did not, when I moved up there, literally you guys, I did not own a pair of socks. And Tallahassee gets cold, but I maybe owned one pair and I would wear them, I'm embarrassed to say, with my sandals. We didn't wear a lot of flip-flops then in the 70s. So I had like a pair of Bass or Anye sandals with no toe thing, was open,
Yeah.
About it. And so that's what I swear I would wear that to school when it was cold. I did not own socks. I didn't own a coat. I didn't have a coat to speak of.
Yeah.
It was
Well, you
funny.
don't need one. I mean, your idea of a coat in Florida is like a jacket.
A jacket. Yeah,
You
I
know,
owned
like
some sort of ratty jacket.
it's
I don't.
low outside right now, which is why I have the turtleneck and the puffer vest, and I'm inside, and I've got all these layers,
I
and then
just
I
want
can
to.
always tell the kids from the South because they're like, coats? What are those?
What
I'm
are
like, you're
those?
gonna have.
I do want to say I'm a little bit resentful that you guys have all this nice winter weather and we were 82 yesterday and 73 today. Like,
Yeah,
hey, give us a
you know.
couple of something down here.
Although I've been seeing photos from like Robin Miller and all the snow they've gotten down in Louisiana. You're just too far south. That's all there is to
Yeah,
it. Yeah, for the
we
people
are.
who don't know, she lives in Florida.
Yeah, I will tell you though, we lived in Miami in the mid 70s and it snowed in Miami. And by that I mean there were
Miami, Florida, or Miami, Ohio?
yes, Miami, Florida.
Got snow?
Yes, and by that I mean there were crystals in the air. It was it
Oh,
was it was frozen rain. It did land on the ground, but when school was open air, so there was
yeah,
no heat and there were no hallways. It was just like a patio
yeah.
cover. So it was cold. I think they canceled school because it
Florida,
was cold.
yeah, Florida International University. I led a weekend conference there, and I remember getting there and going, "This is not a college," because it was all that. It was the
Yep.
1 story flat, open. You go basically from classroom outside to the next classroom.
Yep.
I was like, "This is the weirdest thing."
I know. I remember.
Yeah.
I had to learn when I
So,
went to Ohio State.
several people are chiming in about Florida, and be careful what you wish for, because the way this year's going, I kept telling my students in the fall, like we hit, November, and I'm like, just wait. The only thing we did not get in 2020 was a snowpocalypse. I'm like, that'll come in 2021. Just watch. And then this week happened. And everyone's like, we blame
All
you.
right, don't leave any predictions to Cara.
Yeah.
So what
I
do
might
we
have been pathetic on that.
do we have any football predictions before we have to sign off? Any football
We've got
predictions out there, you guys? Come on.
lots of college football. We got Go Gators, Roll Tide, Go Tigers, SEC, LSU, and MSU, Mississippi State split. Yeah, my house was split Nebraska, Purdue, and now we both work at Purdue, but I'm still a Nebraska girl first. And Florida, FSU. So yeah, there's a lot of football fans. I know
Oh, okay. Let's talk basketball. Big Ten is rocking it. I think we've got three teams in the top 5.
yeah,
So
and my son was telling us yesterday that like the top 9 hardest schedules, like, or the top 10, 8 of them are in the Big Ten because
yeah,
of all that strength of schedule stuff.
all
So
that strength of schedule stuff. Yeah. So which I don't even think, and you guys out there who are football fans, the strength of schedule is a rolling definition. We never really know what it is.
well, because
And
Purdue was in the top 25 and then they fell out, and then they'll be, so it just fluctuates. But
yeah. And I will say to the person who said roll tide, while I wanted Ohio State to win the Natty, I will say Alabama looked fantastic. And for us, I think all of our energy went into beating Clemson. So, which was
yeah,
to us the same as victory. So that was a natty for us. But I mean, once Alabama got on the field, I'm like, oh, that guy Mac Jones is good. So,
yeah.
so
All right.
congratulations.
So great. Thanks everyone who joined us. If you haven't read any of Rachel Hauck's amazing books, I cannot recommend them enough. And I'm glad you have those covers. To Love a Prince is our most recent one, but you can't go wrong with any of them. They are so, so good. And if you haven't read Lethal Intent yet, please
Yes,
do.
Kara's books are also good. You want to get into
Yeah,
them.
very different though. We have very different styles. Although yesterday, Rachel and I were brainstorming a kind of legal quandary for her current book that she's working on. So I love how you always have all this fun stuff. It's not just fluffy romance. There's all the great spiritual.
Yeah, we should say that about royals. Guys, I understand people go, oh, a royal romance. Whew. I don't want to read about that, but it's really about a person being in a position that's inherited. But how do you make it mean anything? How do you make it mean something? How do you do something with it? It's always kind of a challenge for me. I will admit, sometimes writing them is boring. That's why I add all this kind of legal stuff. I change things up. The British royal family that does things that they wouldn't do, I do, so that I can, one, give them something to do besides patron charities. But also, it's really about exploring what do I do with this position that I've been born into? What a mantle to have to wear. And without knowing the Lord too, it just seems daunting to me, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and like we were talking about earlier, there's so much spiritual depth in these books. And so thanks so much. Everyone's been commenting about how much they've enjoyed this conversation. And
Thank you guys for coming.
have a great evening, everyone. And next week, Sarah Sundin will be joining me to talk about her new book, When Twilight Breaks, which I just finished today. Super fantastic. And
She's
you'll
awesome.
enjoy that conversation. Yeah, I love her as well. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.